afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California, this is Spiritual Fitness. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today where we'll discuss Know You, Know Me with your host, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. We are close to 15 members on Zoom, and we have around 25 members on Facebook. I have Shweka helping me out in managing social media today. Good afternoon, Vaish. Welcome back to Spiritual Witness.
Oh, thank you very much. Seemed like a long hiatus, JM. I'm glad to be back in this room with everybody. Good to see you, Josh, Wolf, Koladweep, Shelby, Naveen. Boy, thank you, CJ, for coming back. For Ram. Some names I can't read off the list, but glad to see you back. Thank you very much for coming. Yeah, I guess everybody took a long weekend last week, right? I did. I went out of town. I was down in Southern California. I live here in the Bay Area, but I went down to the last program we canceled last year because of the pandemic. It was back and forth, touch and go. And then it turned out that the pandemic was a big deal after all. So the program that we had lined up last year in Irvine, we had to cancel, but it's the first one we picked up this year and went down there last weekend. Not that the pandemic's over or anything like that. I'm just saying we were careful, and we were there, and also in Los Angeles and Long Beach, which was quite an experience. I had no idea that was such a metropolis down there. A lot happening in Long Beach in the yoga scene. A friend of mine has a vegan restaurant there that's doing quite well, even through the pandemic. And there's quite a few young people who are just energized and doing a lot of service down there. A great audience. It was really wonderful. But I was missing all of you, and I'm glad to be back. I hope you all had a great weekend last weekend. So today, I picked up the title actually from Manjula, who had been writing some ideas about topics, and she put this one down, Know You, Know Me. Of course, this word know, K-N-O-W, it's a weird spelling, isn't it? Did you ever think of that as a kid? It's like, hey, what's up with this? It actually comes from Sanskrit. And the Sanskrit the spelling in Sanskrit is no less strange. It starts with a J, if you know Sanskrit and how to read it, but it's a J-N-A, Jnana, J-N-A-N-A, Jnana. Jnana is kind of pronounced like that. And that it's cognate with the word in English. In other words, that's where it comes from, Sanskrit. No, it means the same thing. Gyan means cognition, to know something, and know means to understand, to be aware, same thing. So, Know You, Know Me sounded like, I don't know, a Beatles song or something, or some kind of beginning to a song, but it was attractive to me. And the basis of that, or I say the subtext to that, really is about getting to know the difference between that which is real and that which is not real. And before we do a little bit of introspection meditation, I just want to show you the verse that inspired me to pick up the title and the subtext for this verse. It's on the first slide, and Jay, I'm showing it now. And it says, those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the Atma, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. It's a very straightforward statement, isn't it? And just for definition, the word Atma means the non-neural, non-chemical, non-temporal self. as distinguished, as you see in this verse, from the material body, which is a yantra or a machine. And we're not a machine, we're actually conscious beings. And the verse uses a couple of words, sat and asat. So we'll just look at one more slide, the next one. And it really, that verse calls us to sort the real from the unreal. I've found that sorting is a much better or easier prospect than trying to jam your way through. Sort your friends, sort through your friends and your association, sort through the things that actually do well for you in your life, and go with those. You don't have to go with a lot of the other stuff that doesn't work well for you. Sort through it. So yoga and a thoughtful life means sorting. Find the ripe fruits. Don't try to grab onto the fruits that aren't ripe and yank them off the branch. Try to find those things that are ripe and ready for you. This in the Bhagavad Gita is called yadrichcha, means things that come naturally of their own accord. There's so many things like that that come of their own accord. Not that we don't endeavor, but be open to the gifts that come quite naturally, and we don't have to over endeavor. I'll go into more of that later, I think. So what's unreal? That which does not endure. It comes and goes. And that which is real is called sat. Sat means the foundation of that which is real, that which is true. It doesn't change. So the difference is you are real. That is, you as a conscious being exist. I think, therefore I am. I exist. I'm conscious. I can be aware that I'm conscious. The body, of course, it's not that it doesn't exist, but it's asat, or it's not permanent. Now, if I make the mistake of considering that which is impermanent to be permanent, I'm going to be investing in a lot of cosmetics, and maybe even, what's that science called? Cryogenics. I try to get my body frozen for the time when somebody figures it out, how to bring it back. Well, this, according to the ancient seers, is a waste of time, because there are two different energies. You can't equate the two. They do come from the same source, but one's a superior energy, that's you. You're sat. That's good news. And then there's the asat, which is not just your body, which is perishable, in case you haven't noticed. And there's also your life situation, which is not going to stay put. It's always changing. And there's a lot to that science also, what dictates our life situation. And it has a lot to do with momentum, called karma. Those things we've already done in the past, and we're getting the fruit of our previous activities. So the seers distinguish between the two, sat and asat. So sat means permanent. Asat means that which is not permanent. And there are two different energies. So that's the premise of our meditation today. And one of the ways in which the meditation process is helpful is that we take a moment to notice the difference between us and the body. So let's take a second or a moment to close our eyes, sit up a little straighter than you were a second ago, and come to attention, but be relaxed and keep an alert mind, and close your eyes and just breathe and appreciate the luxury of having your breath and being able to breathe. And take a few natural breaths and just appreciate your breath. Keep an alert mind and stay aware of your breath. Point your awareness at your breath. And now, exhale for 4 counts. And then inhale for 4 counts. Measured breath, deliberately done 3 times. And then take a nice deep inhale and exhale. And then on the end of the exhale, hold it for 4 counts. And after you hold your breath for 4 counts, take a nice deep inhale and hold that for 4 counts. And do it 4 times. Being aware of your breath, deliberately breathing, counting, and feeling what it's like to breathe. And after 4 repetitions, come back to a natural breath and bring your attention inwardly and notice that you're the one watching your breath. Breath is going on like in a bellows, but you are not your lungs. You are not the air coming in or the carbon dioxide going out. You're none of the moisture that's within the breath that's coming out as an extraction from your body. Our body is made mostly of water. You can observe that the body is a construction, and you're residing within that constructed vehicle. Notice that you're the noticer, and just observe. You can notice that your heart is beating. Bring your attention to your heart region and know that it's moving. You can take your attention to your stomach. It's going on with its work, digesting. Now bring your attention to your mind. And just be aware of the subtle energy, thought energy, and observe it. See what's going on in your mind and objectify it. Notice that you're noticing, and you are aloof from your heart, from your stomach, and from the thoughts in your mind. And stay in this position of sakshi or witness. The body is constantly changing. whereas you, as the observer, are always in the same position. You do not diminish or change at any time. And stay in that state. And I read you a verse written by one of the seers of Sat. He writes, just as a deer, because of ignorance, cannot see the water within a well covered by grass, but runs after water elsewhere, the living entity covered by the material body does not see the happiness within him or herself, but runs after happiness in the material world. So now bring your awareness back to your breath. You rub your hands together, bring some external sensation, open your eyes, you come back into the room. And in this last poetic verse about the deer, I'll just read it again. We can reflect on this. Just as a deer, because of ignorance, cannot see the water within a well covered by grass, but runs after water elsewhere, the living entity covered by the material body does not see the happiness within him or herself, but runs after happiness in the material world. So there's an important conclusion to the premise that is presented by these seers, and that is that if we miss the distinction between that which is sat or permanent, ourselves, and that which is asat, and we equate the two, then we're being taken for a ride, as they used to say, at least my father used to say, you've been taken for a ride. Means we're riding as on the chariot of the mind. And it's easy enough to equate my life with my life situation, but the two are different. One is constantly changing, it's moving by, and I'm permanently the witness watching it move. So let's see, JM, what we have here for some comments coming in.
Yeah, we have a question on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
What does bring your attention inwardly mean? How do you see the happiness within yourself?
Well, one point is to notice that you can direct your own attention. And as we did the experiment, I mentioned, and even as I was mentioning it, I was experiencing it for myself. And that was point your attention to your lungs and see that they're like bellows. I was able to objectify. And then I mentioned, let's look at the heart. So we're looking at the heart and then the stomach, and we're noticing, first of all, that these are entities moving themselves without our direction. And also that we have the wherewithal to move our attention wherever we wish. You can point it any direction. That's our free will, to direct our attention wherever we wish, to place it anywhere we want. How does one find inner happiness? First of all, let's describe why I might feel unhappy. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, the teacher, describes the ways in which I identify myself with my mind, and the mind is constantly engaged, or I should say, the mind that is constantly engaged with the world, then presents various scenarios. For instance, what might happen to me in the future. Have you ever had your mind present to you a future that wasn't so pretty? And you may be sitting there in a beautiful apartment in San Francisco somewhere, or an office, and you're okay right then at that moment. And I propose we're always okay in the moment. But when I look at my mind and I say, oh, look at that. There's a movie playing about what it's going to be like in 5 years, or what's going to happen to me, or what might happen, what I might look like, and so forth. And when I watch that movie, my mouth hanging open, I think, oh, I'm ruined. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there. So similarly, when I'm dreaming at night, close my eyes, go to sleep, and I may be running for an airplane and thinking I'm going to be late. And not only that, I don't even know where my bags are. Where's my ticket? And then you wake up and realize that actually I'm lying here on the bed. And sometimes when people are intoxicated, they see the room moving. The carpet is like water or something like that. And meanwhile, the people around them are watching and it's like, no, the carpet is okay. It's still where it was before. It's not moving. But the chitta, or the mind, is unstable and it's moving. And so in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali said, when the mind comes to stillness, then we can see ourselves and we feel some peace within the mind. Naturally, we're full of happiness when we're in our original state, which is aware of our spiritual nature and aware that we're connected to an original conscious source. And when we're in that state, we're in Sat. That's why we're able to see our existence. This is called the state of Sattva, where we realize what's real. And then there's a natural feeling of happiness. No free gift necessary. Just seeing who we actually are is sufficient for that experience of happiness. So it's more about seeing beyond the fluctuations of the mind, or becoming detached from the mind, aloof from the mind, and objectifying the mind and seeing there's a difference between me and my mind. What else, JM?
We have a couple of more. One is from Nirali. She says, I notice that my mind creates seductive thoughts wanting to pursue it. Mind makes me feel something is missing, seems like starting to look for desire. However, it seems without desire, there is nothing to do, nothing to run after, makes uncomfortable. How to calm desire bubbling up?
So there's two aspects of our existence. When I'm absorbed in the body as the self, and I'm absorbed in my life situation as my situation, rather than just a life situation that's passing by me, then I feel anxiety. So then one might conclude the way to not feel this kind of anxiety is just to not move at all. However, there is activity in transcendence. There is desire in transcendence, because the nature of the self, the Atma, is to desire, to have emotion, to have ambition, actually. Now, when you put a crystal that's clear next to a red rose, then it takes on the hue of the rose. It's not actually red. If it's a red rose, the crystal is not red, but it takes on that impression that it's red. So when I become involved with the material nature, the lower energies, then I start to feel as if I've taken on that quality. And I express my ambition, my loving emotions, which are always there in the conscious self, in the material world, in the material life, in my material life situation. But because it's not stable, material world's like a reflection of reality. I'm not fulfilled, and the love that I give here is not properly reciprocated. However, there is a life of spiritual dedication through which we express our emotions in loving our original conscious source, and also the ambitions that we have are for selfless service that go to, as I've given an example before, watering the root of a tree, and then we become naturally satisfied as the branches of the tree. So in the process of bhakti, actually, they're very intense emotions. There's all kinds of services to do and activities of the senses, but they're addressing the Atma and the source of the Atma rather than the external world. So it's not a matter of stopping our activities or stopping ambitions or love or emotions or anything like that, but redirecting them. You've heard the song, looking for love in all the wrong places. So this is a description of being absorbed in the body and the life situation that's going on around me. Bhakti is reinvesting in the right place. What else, JM?
Josh posted Mark Twain's quote, I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened.
That's good. That's really good. He's so witty, isn't he? And that expresses it in one sentence quite well. Thank you. That was a good one. What else?
Miriam says, according to Dr. Lustig, the author of The Hacking of the American Mind, we are making mistaken pleasure and
pleasure, yeah.
And happiness often. Oh, sorry, we are mistaking pleasure and happiness often. There are 7 main differences that we need to carefully look at between pleasure and happiness.
Yeah. So this is something seers from all continents and time periods in history have noted the same thing. And that is there's a difference between ourself and our body, and that there's a difference between inferior and superior kinds of happiness.
I think she's posting some of the differences, including pleasure is short-lived and happiness is long-lived. Pleasure is visceral, happiness is ethereal. Pleasure is taking, happiness is giving. I think there are more like that.
This is much to the point. Well taken, Miriam. Thank you for giving these citations. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a noteworthy verse in this connection that says, I'll give the Sanskrit, Yehi samsparshacha bhoga dukayonaya evate adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. So what this says, some interesting nuance in this, that an intelligent person, Buddha means intelligence. So an intelligent person, those are wise actually, and, don't invest in temporary happiness. It's called adyantavanta. So in Sanskrit, this word means adyantavanta. It means there's a beginning and an end. So anything that has a beginning and an end, short-lived, long-lived, doesn't matter how long it is. If it has a lifespan or a shelf life, we say, what is it in a half-life, shelf life, how long will it last? It has an ending date, and it could be a trillion years. It doesn't matter. It's still not considered worthy of our investment of effort and a consciousness if it has an ending date anywhere on it. You look on the label and see, does it end? 1 trillion years shelf life. Nope, sorry, rejected. That's the verse. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga. And it means all kinds of bhoga or pleasure that you get in this world that have a beginning and an end are not worthy of being pursued. That's pretty categorical. And so then it says a little bit more about that. In fact, it says, if you do invest in them, dukkha means unhappiness. Yonaya evate. Yona means like the womb. So dukkha yonaya evate. If you invest in that, then what you're doing, you're going to get from what will be born from that, what comes from the womb of that endeavor, is dukh. Dukh means unhappiness. So when I invest myself in anything that has a shelf life, then I'm going to get misery out of it, because we don't like that. We are beings that do not have a beginning and an end, and we don't like things with a shelf life at all. And you might try to extend it outwardly and say, okay, but it's 12 trillion years. That's no comparison to something that always exists. It doesn't matter. You're just kicking the can down the road, and it's not going to satisfy. So you have to look for the kind of happiness that is never ending. And that's the point of bhakti yoga, is to invest your emotions in that which doesn't end. There's more coming in,
Yeah.
Jan. Let's see what it is.
Matten says, can you extrapolate on the idea that my current situation is a result of karma? I do not understand karma very well. Does it mean if I did bad things in my past, my current situation is bad because of that? If I do good things now, my future situation will be good?
Yeah, it means that, but a lot more. I mean, think of this word, consequence. And let's divide it up. Sequence. Sequence means there's an algorithm. Things unfold in a particular way, in a determined way. When you push a certain button, it enacts some operation that is predictable. So karma, in one way, yes, as you've described it, according to our activities, there is a consequence. We put it into motion by what we do. If I drive on the wrong side of the road, on the 101 freeway, there is going to be a consequence. And I can't tell you exactly what it'll be, but as you put it, it might be bad. It depends on your perspective. But it could be really bad. So if I act out of harmony with the laws of the universe, let's not go so esoteric. Let's just say if I act out of harmony with the laws of the government, drive on the right side of the road, and I say, nah, I don't think so. I'm going to drive on the left side of the road. How do you like that? And then they'll say, well, how do you like living in jail? And I'll say, not very much. They'll say, you guys are really cruel. They say, well, how come you drove on the wrong side of the road? So there are consequences to what I do, and especially for humans, because humans have some discrimination, therefore are supposed to educate themselves so that they don't violate the laws. That's the idea of having wisdom literatures that I refer to over and over again. My friend Dan McCready calls in Divyanga frequently to appreciate that phrase, wisdom literatures, because they give us wisdom and they help us to align with the laws of the universe, with the speak of the government. So I'm not saying, anyway, that's the example. And so there's a way in which, by my associations, by my activities, I develop a particular set of impressions within my mind. And as an example, this morning was on my walk. I wrote this in my notebook. Dogs sniff trees. True or false? Anybody who's ever seen dogs? Can you take a dog for a walk without it sniffing a tree? Possible? Impossible. Squirrels hide nuts. Can you tell a squirrel, let's sit him down and give him a little lecture? Excuse me, but don't hide that in here. He'll look at you like, hey, I'm a squirrel. That's what I do. I hide the nuts. And then beavers chew on wood. So if you tell them, put up a little sign, it has a picture of a beaver with the line going through it, said, no chewing, please, on these logs. A beaver will say, hey, I chew logs. That's what I do. They have a particular body. If you try to instruct them in a particular way, they won't be able to respond because they're programmed in a way. In the human body, we also have programming. We think in certain ways. Some of it is our upbringing, but that's also due to our momentum from previous lives, the family that we land in, the kind of training that we get when we're young and so forth. It's not fatalistic. It can be altered and changed, just like in epigenetics. You may be predisposed to diabetes, but if you're really careful and you watch your diet and your exercise and things like that, you can avoid it. And not only that, you can get an exemption. You can overcome it. You can rise above karma. So it's it's a fascinating subject, and it is this is just a summary of it in answer to your question. But number one, yes, there is karma. Yes, we are impelled by our previous activities to do things now, right now, because of what we've done in the past. And yes, we can overcome karma. That's part of the idea of becoming freeing your consciousness through the process of yoga. Go ahead, JM.
We have another question from C. You know the job you have will end someday. There is a beginning and an end. So does it mean we should not invest in it?
Well, this goes to our ongoing discussion about the two parts of our life. Although our body and mind, although our bodies and minds are asat, they're temporary, we still have to contend with them for a while. And therefore, we have this aspect in our life called vyavaharika, which is very practical. You have what my guru used to call make the best use of a bad bargain. You have a temporary body, so you have to take care of it for now. So do the needful to take care of it. But as the ancient wisdom literatures say, here's another Sanskrit verse coming at you. Kama sanendriya pritir labo jivete yavata jivasya tattva jignasya narto yasheha karmavi, which means basically, take care of yourself because you have a rare gift. You've been given a vehicle. It's a rental. Don't mistake it to be yours. It's a rental, and you don't have the paperwork. It can be taken back at any time. So don't get too, if you have a really nice body, don't start feeling entitled or like, I'm great. It can be repossessed at any time unceremoniously. I'm speaking truth here. This is a fact. And so the verse says, take care of what you've been given, but not inordinately. So here's how it translates well into kind of a common saying in English, and that is, eat to live, don't live to eat. In other words, take care of yourself so that you can use your body as a vehicle to experience a higher kind of happiness and be established in a higher situation. That's the essence of it. Hope that helps.
Wolf has a question. So the wisdom literature might be perceived as a cheat sheet instead of rediscovering the purpose of one's life and laws of universe over and over again.
Nice, Wolf. Good to hear from you. Glad you're here. Yeah, it's kind of the cliff notes. Of course, there's the extended version too. There's a lot of wisdom literatures, and they go into minute detail in many ways. But I would say the Bhagavad Gita and some of the Upanishads are definitely a cheat sheet for those who don't have a lot of time and they want to find out what's the essence of the teachings. And so they give really pithy kind of instructions so that, yes, as Wolf says, you could do this the easy way or the hard way, as they say. The easy way is to get oriented through knowledge and avoid some of the pitfalls of having to go through it by trial and error. And both can be there, because oftentimes we have to test these theories. We have to test them ourselves and find out, does this really apply to me? Only until we actually have some confidence in it by experiencing it for ourselves, trying it out, do we get traction with the practice.
There are a few more. Do you want me to cover some of the slides?
Yes, I think so, because I'm burning up a lot of clock here. Here we go, a couple more slides. So you are Sat. This is an important meditation. Remember that you're a spiritual being. You're not your body. The body's made of water. It's made of various chemicals, minerals. You're not minerals. You're not water. You're not carbon. Nor does carbon and water and minerals mixed together create consciousness. Three Blind Mice. Does anybody remember that song? I think it was at the beginning of the Three Stooges. Three blind mice, see how they run. I won't say the rest because it's non-vegetarian, I think. But it's the three blind mice. Okay, three blind mice, put them together. Can they see if they're together? Put together 1,000 blind mice, or how about 10 million or 1 trillion blind mice? Now do you get vision? No. So the cells in the body, they're organisms, but they don't see, they don't conduct, they don't create conscious, they're not conscious themselves. If you put more and more of them together, or material elements for that matter, you don't get a sudden combustion. According to the wisdom literatures, we already exist. We move into a situation that's temporary. So remembering that actually you're not the body, you're the Atma, or the self, the conscious particle, organizing particle that resides within a material body, is key to any spiritual practice. So let me ask you all this. Is your life situation, and everyone has a life situation, I suppose, is it Sat or Asat? What is your opinion? Is your life situation, Subhadra, what do we mean by life situation, would you say? Look, you name very specific elements of a life situation.
Where I live, what kind of car I drive, who I hang out with.
Okay. Where you live, what kind of car you drive, who you hang out with. Is that Sat or Asat? Would you all say? Oh, we're getting some votes coming in.
Yeah, you're Josh saying both. Rajesh is Asat, S says Asat.
Yeah, I like all those answers, including both, because there's always nuance to this. And if your life situation is being engaged for a higher purpose, it can be transformed also. But for the purpose of this particular conversation and the context of it, just to make the distinction, in general, the life situation, for instance, the body I have now, the family I have now, and so forth, I'm basically passing through. And it has a shelf life. Therefore, that's the definition. If it has a shelf life, it's us.
We have Nirali, Matten, Nick, MP all saying Asat. And Wolf says Asat by design, moving towards Sat as we progress, though some are never.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's Asat by design. There's designed, what is it called? Planned obsolescence, designed obsolescence within this body. And some people are aware of that, some people aren't. Okay, let's show a few more slides now that we've voted on whether our life situation is Sat or Asat. And then I heard this story many years ago about the man who deposited his money in the wrong bank account. And I think the expression on his face says it all. He worked very hard for many years and deposited his money. And then he went back to make a withdrawal of all of it, but found out that he put it in the wrong account. And that's his reaction. So this is compared to investing exclusively, although we have already established that there's some attention you have to give to your life situation. We don't just become averse to it, antisocial, asocial. We interact with the world, but the full investment doesn't have to go into that account because there's nothing there ultimately. When you go to withdraw from that, you're not going to get anything out of it. So the more you can put into your spiritual account, we all get a spiritual bank account, the more you can put into that, now that's a good investment because it's it never diminishes. And the compounding interest is incredible. So invest. The conclusion is very practical. You know, if you find out about compounding interest in finance, one of the wonders of the world, by the way, the marvels of the world, compound interest. Somebody of modest means, read the book called The Richest Man in Babylon, written many, many years ago, about whatever you earn, you should put away 10% of the gross for yourself before you pay for everybody else. Every credit card, every student loan, put away 10%. And if you can't put away 10%, then earn more or spend less, but put away 10% and then invest it, and then you'll become wealthy. So what about in your life? If you invest, take time to invest at least 10% of your overall endeavor every day into Sat, you're going to be a spiritual millionaire. That's the next show. Who wants to be a spiritual millionaire? And someone says, then here's my dialogue. I wrote a dialogue for a major motion picture here, but I'm too busy. No, there's the dialogues right there. Let's do it. Someone says, but I'm too busy. And then the retort comes, busy doing what? So that's a big question to ask oneself. I'm too busy. So realign purposes. One more slide. Purpose. It's a great word, and it's an engine for going in the right direction. Align your purpose, your life will become meaningful. It's almost a tautology I just gave there, but I should say you become energized when you're clear on your purpose. I think I told you this, but I spent a lot of time at the beginning of the pandemic, and it served me well, just writing down my purposes. I highly recommend this. And if you just spend a little time saying, what is my purpose in life? And put it down. So take 2 minutes right now, please. Grab a pen, or if you're at a keyboard, what do you think? And don't overthink it, because you only have 2 minutes. What are your 3 main purposes in life? Just write down your 3 main purposes in life right now. And I'm going to be back in 2 minutes because I don't want to influence you in any way.
We have some purpose coming up on the chat.
Okay.
So we have
Okay.
Jason saying, set goals, prioritize. So just scroll up. Set goals, prioritize, invest time in what is important. Marilia says, serve, care for others, take care of my
Well,
temple.
that's what But here's what I'm asking. What is most important? So I say purpose. What three things are the most important to you in your life? How about that? Go ahead, JM.
Yeah, Wolf says to live, to love, to learn, to leave a
Live,
legacy.
love, and learn.
Yes.
That should be a logo. The Wolf brand logo. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you. Did you
Good to
get
see-
mine?
Let's see.
Yeah,
JM,
I'm still reading.
there it is. Serve, care for others, take care of my temporary vehicle, and leave a positive mark. Powerful. That's nice. I can read it
Thank
again.
you.
Serve, care for others, take care of my temporary vehicle, and leave a positive mark. I mean, God, I could take those on for sure. They're really powerful.
Thank
How
you.
did you feel writing those? So how did it make you feel
Well,
thinking
that's
about
my
it?
soul's purpose. I live my life daily with this in the top of my mind, the front of my mind. So I wake up each morning with these goals in mind. This is how I live.
And is this something you'd contemplated and written before?
No, it just comes to me automatically.
So when you wrote it down this time, what was there any a thought process, visceral reaction, anything at all you can describe?
No thought process, it just comes automatically. I don't even think about it. It just flows through me this way.
Fantastic. Nice. Let's hear from others. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What are some others, JM? Let's hear.
Sure. Josh says, give love, accept love, enjoy, savor nectar. Jason says, happiness, wisdom, give back. C says, serve others in need. Jean says, love and be loved. Procreate, do fun things. Nilet says, empower the underprivileged. Jesse, to leave this world better than I left it or I found it. And then Denise says, this was hard. Be a kind human was first.
It was hard. Denise, let's hear more about that. Yeah, I agree that it's hard. And I wanted to try to match up how you felt about what was hard about it.
Okay,
If
thank
can
you for
describe it.
asking.
Yes, please.
Honestly, sitting here, I was thinking like, oh, be a good mother and do well in life. And then I sort of felt like each thing I was thinking had to do with other people. And then I thought, well, what is my purpose for me as a person? And of course, my purpose would be to be kind to people and leave world, but what is my purpose that will get into my soul? As I listened to her explain, like, take care of a temporary vehicle. She said it just comes to her. I don't have anything that just naturally comes to me that's mine. It's more about what I can do for others. And that tends to be a problem in my life, is I give so much that then I'm burned out and I don't really take care of my own self. So trying to figure out my purpose, it was an interesting thing to sit there and think, even though it can have to do with others. Do you have anything to say on that?
Yes, I can really relate to that. And it's the purpose of the exercise. I experienced similar emotions and thought processes when I did it, and I still do it. And my wife can attest to the fact that after I wrote my list, we'd be walking along and say, no, I think what are you talking about? I have to move this one to that, be constantly thinking. And just in the observation of the process and thinking about what is my purpose, I was energized. And yes, your observation that, okay, what am I actually doing? Oh, is this for myself? Is it for others? How should I position myself? Is an important thought process. And this relates to the conversation we're having today about Sat and Asat, and investing in Sat and not so much in Asat, or only as much as is required. And so the thought process itself is important. It's part of the yoga process, or reconnecting with our higher self, which is what yoga means. So I relate to the thought process you're going to and how it makes you introspective and think about, what am I doing and why, right?
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing, Denise. It's an interesting prospect to spend time with this. Really write it down somewhere, maybe on a word processor, if that's still a phrase. I don't know if it is, and keep working with it until you can sit with it for a week or two and think, yeah, I think I have it in place. And then if there's somebody you really trust, you can share it with them and say, here are my priorities. When I've done that with people I trust, they get energized too, just by the process. There's really powerful metaphysical energy in deciding what your purpose is based on Sat and Asat.
We have four more minutes left. You want to cover the remaining couple of slides?
Yes, let's do that. And you can save the rest of them for me in the chat, because I really want to read what everybody else wrote. And JM will send them to me afterwards so I can read that, because I'm very interested. And thank you for taking the time to do it. Here's another word, enthusiasm. And as I promised in the title, the purpose and enthusiasm, the definition: intense and eager enjoyment, interest, or approval. Comes from en theos, inspired by the divinity within. So really the alacrity, the enthusiasm that we have for life and the way we move about has so much to do with our purpose. And when purpose is aligned with Sat, with what's actually real, what's metaphysical, which beyond just the physical, the lower energy, it's meta. That is a divine inspiration. It comes from within, and it's not something you can measure on a meter. You can't buy a meter that measures these types of things. They are otherworldly, actually. And here are a few of the practices in bhakti. I'll start with spiritual diet, because we are what we eat, not just in body and mind, but also in our atma, or our self. We're very subjected by what we put into our bodies, especially in the way of food. Takes on a particular vibration. So there is a spiritual diet, and it has to do with the way we look at food and the way we handle it, the way we cook it, and also acknowledging where it comes from. It's coming from a divine source. In Japanese, anybody here speak Japanese? Nihongo ga wakarimasu ka? There's a way when you sit down to take a meal in Japan, you say itadakimasu, which means now I am receiving something that's coming to me as a gift. And so there's a spiritual way of eating that is very powerful, as opposed to jamming your hand in a bag of nachos and stuffing it into your mouth without thinking. You're looking at something else, doing something else, and just crunch, crunch, munch, munch. And who cares what's in it? That doesn't engender spiritual consciousness. Then, of course, mantra meditation, selfless service, and hearing of wisdom literature, as we did a little bit today. And we're going to end with a mantra. So man means mine, and tra means to deliver. And one of the ways to get into a spiritual trance, and we did this when I was down in Los Angeles this weekend, at several locations where I went, we did a chanting session, and it was uncanny, very powerful, that the groups that were there, socially distanced, wearing masks, we did some of the chanting together, and with the group chanting of the mantra, people were noticeably carried away by the vibration. So fixing your mind on the potent sound source, PSS, And here are a couple of mantras. So this is the Nitai Gauranga mantra, which I highly recommend, passed down over thousands of years. And it goes like this. I'll say 3 times and you can get an idea for the pronunciation. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. And then the next mantra is called the Maha Mantra, and it has 3 words, Hare Krishna Rama. And it goes like this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And this is a mantra that you can learn and repeat. And when you do your mantra meditation, you'll notice the effect of the sound vibration that helps to naturally give you a vision of the difference between Sat and Asat. And that brings us to the end of today's spiritual fitness. Thank you, JM, for making everything work. And who else was helping today?
Sveka was helping me.
Oh, thank you so much, Shweka. And thank you, everybody, for joining from various places. And the way we'll sign off is the way yogis say hello and goodbye to each other up in the Himalayas. They stay in caves and meditate for weeks, sometimes months on end, and they come out for some roots and fruits. And when they see each other on the path, they say, Hari Bol. So everyone kind of unmute. And if you feel like putting your camera on for an extra thrill, just come on and open your microphone and say, Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Oh.
Haribol.
Haribol. Thanks, CG. Thanks, Amulia. Thanks, Bejul Wood. Thanks, Nirali. Angie, thank you.
Haribol.
Mary Layar. I forgot how to say your name.
It's Marilia.
Marilia, thank you very much. Okay,
You're
Jason.
welcome. I'm not sure if you could see the chat box, but I put a little something extra in regard to the purpose of our journey here.
Oh, thank you very much. JM
Absolutely.
will save all those things for us. We cherish them. And thank you very, very much, everybody. I'll be counting the days till I see you next week.
Thank you. How do you
Keep the transcendental vibration going. Haribol.
Haribol. Thank you.
Thank you.